Hello, welcome back to Sharks Happen. My name is Hal. I'm going over shark attacks from the 1900s to present, mostly large sharks, and we're going to get started right away. Go over to Aldinga Beach. It's over in South Australia. It's Sunday, December 8th, 1963. Rodney Fox, 23 years old. He's participating in a spearfishing competition, statewide West Australia state competition. And he's already got it won, and he's in the water to try to get another fish. But he's already won the competition. And he's about 1 kilometer offshore, it says. He's swimming near a drop-off, which is always bad news. It drops off from 7-meter depth where he's at down to about, I think it says 18 meters. So you're talking about 25 feet to about 60 feet. He's at this drop-off, and he says suddenly he feels a hit on his side. And he's being pushed through the water. Goggles had flown off, and he knows immediately that he's in the jaws of a great white. It's got him, and he says he reaches back. He says that it's squeezing him so hard that it felt like it was pushing all of his organs to one side of his body. So he reaches back to hit it in the head, and it releases him, but he accidentally puts his arm down the shark's throat, ends up getting his arm mangled up along with the damage that it did to his body. Shark lets him go. He swims for the surface. He says on the way to the surface he could feel the shark on his fins. So as he's going up, the shark is following him up. He gets up to the surface, and now he feels the hide brush against him. So he says he wraps himself around the shark, grabs onto it so it can't bite him again. Now the shark takes him all the way down to the bottom and rubs him off the bottom, off a couple things, and he lets go because he needs to go up and get air. He goes up and gets the air. He says he surfaces in a bunch of red. He's in his own blood. And he says, and just then the shark's head pops up into the water and comes at him. And he's worried that, it's all over now. And just before the shark gets to him, it turns to the left, and he says now he feels a tug on his float line for his fish. Shark's got the float line and the fish, and it is taken off. Now they got boats now because of prior attacks during the competition. They have boats to pick people up. And it doesn't say in the report if there was fish in there, but I'm thinking there might have been. Not necessarily, but seeing as he came back and grabbed that float, I'm thinking there was a fish in that bag. So now it's got him, and it took him another 12, 15 meters, he said, deep. And he's trying to get the clip to release, and he says his fumbling fingers aren't doing anything. And finally, the shark must have bit through the line because it released, and he went to the surface. Boats picked him up and took him in. Interesting thing here is they learned from a shark attack before not to take the wetsuit off of the person. I guess, I forget the name, we'll do a report on him, but they took the wetsuit off, and that was a mistake. So what they did with Rodney when they were taking him in was they had him lay in the boat and keep curled up with the wetsuit on. It ended up, it exposed his lung, punctured his lung, exposed his stomach. He was all ripped open. There's pictures of this everywhere. It's pretty gruesome. It's in Shark Book, a great white shark, the book Shark Attack. There was a Shark Attack Files book, I believe it's in there. So this is one of the most famous ones. But I wanted to let you know about this one. The shark ended up releasing him, and he ended up surviving and became a advocate for sharks, knowing that the shark didn't want to eat him and didn't want to grab him. He was in the wrong place, wrong time type thing. Hey, we're going to stick in Western Australia. We're going to go to the place called The Farm. It's in Bunker Bay. The date is Sunday, September 4th, 2011. Kyle Burden, 21 years old. He's out bodyboarding with 4 other friends. They're about 45 meters from shore. The weather's described as perfect sharky conditions type thing. It was overcast. It was light rain. The water was pretty dark instead of usually lit up and colorful, so contrast in sharks is a little more difficult in that situation. There was whale spotted in the harbor. There's a seal colony around the rocks from there, like around the corner from there. There's a seal colony, and they've been seeing big great whites in the area. The 4 friends are in the water. It's 1:30, 45 meters from shore. One of the friends says they saw, the girl said she saw a shape go underneath her and thought it was a dolphin. So they're sitting there waiting for the dolphin to surface, and the dolphin doesn't surface. This is about a minute before the attack. It goes underneath there. The next thing that anybody witnesses, they see the shark leaving with the fin broken in the water, and it's headed away. They said it was headed for a group of 15 people that were over in another area. But the shark was at the surface, and they said by the fin it was a bronze whaler. But we'll get back to that. They were looking around and they saw that Kyle was laying in a pool of blood. They didn't, nobody witnessed the attack. Nobody knew that it happened until they looked over and they saw him laying in the blood. Now, a bunch of the people that are around are now swimming frantically to get out of there. But two of his surfer buddies went over and grabbed him and put him on the board and brought him in. A couple of the witnesses were on the beach. The one guy says, I was unfortunate enough to see some of it, and what I saw was too much, and I don't know when that'll ever get out of my mind. It bit the lower half of his body completely off. Probably one bite shot, and I don't even know how to, is that a one-time hit? Is that trying to consume somebody? Because it did. I don't think it wanted to consume him, but it bit him in half. The fact that it didn't stick around, it wasn't trying to eat him. It could have ate him with no problem. So it wasn't mistaken identity. It went right under one person and right by another. It knew it was around people. Even though the water's murky, it's not like these sharks can't see. So I don't see it as a mistaken identity bite either. So that's our second attack. That was fatal. They brought him to the shore, but he was done right when it happened. It was probably just instantaneous death on that one. So that's our second attack. No depth given on the water, otherwise I'd have given it to you, and we'll move on. Okay, now we're going to head over to Alualu, Hawaii. The date is Tuesday, November 26, 1991. Martha Morell, she's 41 years old. She's out swimming with a friend. They're 100 meters from shore, in 10 to 15 feet of water. And a shark appears and goes right next to, brushes by her friend, which sends her swimming straight to shore. Brushes by her friend and heads over, and it attacks Morell. No witness to the attack. The friend went straight to the shore, got a man that had a board that he took out, and he swam out there, and by the time he got there, he said multiple sharks had joined in the attack, and he went away. The autopsy doesn't say that's the case, though. They just mentioned one shark. They recovered the remains after they went out with a recovery party, and her left arm was bit off at the shoulder. Her right arm was bitten off at the forearm, so the right forearm is gone. The right leg, lower leg / foot is taken off, and it took her left leg above the hip. It says it severed the left leg above the hip. So, did quite a job on her. The shark might have been just one shark that was just making such a commotion. They slap their tails, and they can very easily appear to be more than one shark, especially when they're large like that. So they just say one shark. The reports in the media at the time in the newspaper said it was a 15-foot shark, but the autopsy report says that the shark was between 10 and 13 feet, tiger shark. Morell didn't make it. They recovered her body, and that is our third story. We're going to move on. Okay, now we're going to head over to the coast of California to a place called Lover's Point. It's at Pacific Grove. The date, Sunday, December 7th, 1952. Barry Wilson, 16 years old. He's swimming with a friend, Bruckner Brady. He's 15 years old. The clarity on this day is not good. You can see about 2 meters, they say, so about 6 foot of visibility in the water. There's a lot of plankton, heavy plankton. There's heavy surf. There was runoff from rain the night before, so very, very poor conditions to be able to see in. They're 25 yards from shore, 25 meters from shore, so a little bit more than 25 yards, and in 60 feet of water, when Bruckner sees that Barry's been attacked by a great white. So he swims over to Barry, and by the time he gets there, he takes out his knife that he's got with him and starts stabbing the shark in the mouth. He's still got his friend in his mouth, and Bruckner is now stabbing the shark in the mouth. In the snout, and the water and the shaking knocked the knife away, and it fell to the bottom of the water. So now he's beating on the shark with his hands, and it finally lets go and swims away, is what he says. Now we go to the eyewitness that was up on an elevated position on a cliff. He was looking at this. He saw he saw Barry sitting in the water and he was tugged down. He did that, dropped down like a bobber if a fish hit your bobber once, and it hasn't taken it, but it kind of tested it out. That's what the shark did to him. Beginning of Jaws, exactly. The witness says that he's looking in all directions frantically now, and he sees that the shark has gone to the top of the surfaces and is charging at the kid. It hits him in the legs, clamps on both of his legs, and lifts him up out of the water with his head up. The shark lifts his head out of the water, lifting him out of the water to his thighs. So his thighs, top of his thighs, and the rest of him is out of the water. They said he's got his hand on the shark, trying to push the shark away, and the shark just turned to the side and took him underwater that way. And then the witness said a blood circle of about 6 meters, so about 2 meters, so about 6 foot blood circle formed right away. And then Barry popped up in there, and he's screaming and slapping at the surface. And as he's doing this, the shark is right there, and his tail is smacking us. He's doing that feeding thing where they're smacking their tail wildly. Probably, I think, so that they're getting the best grip they can get. They don't have arms and hands. They have to use their tail to be able to dig in, I would think. So that's what they're doing at that point. That's not good. So that's what he saw at the top. He had alerted, there's 4 divers down in the water practicing. He had alerted them that the shark attack happened, so they took their inner tube and were swimming over there. They finally get there, and they go to put Barry up into the inner tube, and they said that it was as if he was pushed up there, and then they looked and they saw the giant tail of the shark disappearing underwater. So it came up and obviously took a bite on him right there. And now they're swimming him into shore, and the shark come back at least 2 more times trying to get the body, one time grabbing onto the leg and shaking the body around as it's in the inner tube. Multiple times they could feel the turbulence of the shark swimming underneath them as they're swimming him to shore. And the witness corroborated and said that the shark followed them all the way in, staying only a few meters away. So it seemed to have stayed far enough away to where we couldn't see it, but it could see us. So I think that happens quite a bit, and that was fatal. The shark had done damage to his legs, but the fatal injury, I think, was to the front of his thigh, where it ripped out the meat there. So that was the fatal injury. It had severed an artery. He bled to death. He was dead, I think, before they got him to shore. So that's our story on Barry Wilson, 16, another shark attack victim. Okay, we now head over to Piombino, Tuscany, Italy. It's Thursday, February 2nd, 1989. Luciano Costanza, 47-year-old male. He's diving. He's got his son and his son's friend are on board of this boat. And he's diving down with tanks. He's going down, and the report says he's either going to spearfish or he's going to remove debris from cables on rocks down there. And I believe it's the second, and I'll tell you why they had the first in a little bit. So he's down there, he encounters a huge great white, kind of like in a Jaws movie where you're down there dealing with something, you turn around and there's a shark there. That's probably what happened to him. He freaked out and bolted for the top. And he's getting to the surface while the shark follows him. And the son now says the shark gets to the surface, its dad's at the surface, and the shark does two circles around him, and then it goes a little bit underwater. The dad starts swimming frantically for the boat. The son starts gunning the motor to make noise, trying to scare the shark away, but it didn't work. Shark surfaces, makes one violent attack on him, grabbing him by the chest, and then doing the death shake as he's submerging him. So that's the last thing the son sees of his dad, is him in the jaws of the shark being taken down. Later on, they had a recovery team come out. The only thing that they found, they saw seabirds were picking at, it looked like a pancreas or a liver floating. Something buoyant from a body was floating there, and they were picking at it. So they weren't able to recover anything from the body itself or the wetsuit. They weren't able to get any of the wetsuit. When it did the shake, it shook off his goggles like it normally does. It shook off the flippers, but in one bite, it ended up biting through and biting off the weight belt and the tanks, both the restraints in the one bite. And they said that the way that the tanks were indented proved that it was a shark, because they had to prove that it was a shark, because the government over there tried to say that it was, dynamiting or whatever it is. But yeah, that's our story on Luciano Costanza. They say that 67% of the time they do not recover any remains from shark attacks there, whether it be from consummation or some other issue to where they can't get it. Okay, we're going to finish out the show with our Provoke segment. You are an idiot. Today's idiot is Aaron Moore. He's 32 years old. He, I guess on his Instagram, he calls himself the Shark Rider. And back in 2014, he actually he's filmed jumping off of a boat onto the back of I believe it is a 9-foot hammerhead shark. And the way this is done is, you know, they're obviously fishing. Somebody caught the thing, and they brought it up to the boat, which means it's exhausted. That's why you can get away with something like that. So fast forward, I believe it's July of this year of 2021, but it's 2021 anyway. I'm not going to get too specific on these. I just want you to know the stories because I just cannot believe them. 2021, he's chartering a fishing boat, and he takes people out fishing, and sure enough, allegedly he jumps on the back of a 10-foot lemon shark. You know, those friendly sharks that are in those aquariums everywhere. This idiot jumps on the back of one of those that somebody caught. So this time the shark got a hold of him, and now he's paying customers for the charter, are giving this idiot first aid, and he has to be, it's like airlifted or air medicked out to get some help somewhere, Perth or somewhere, I forget where it is, but yeah, he needs all this attention, and now all these, however many people are on the boat, they're all suing him for $5,000. They're suing the company for $5,000 back. So congratulations, Aaron Moore. You, sir, are a big idiot, and yeah, obviously paying the price for it big time. So that's our show for today. The whiteboard, I'm off by 1 attack. I didn't realize I did 5 unprovoked last week instead of 4, and that's why I kept it at 5 this week. I'm like, well, I'll just give them 5 a week then. So you get 5 unprovoked and 1 provoked attack a week now. And I'm going to adjust those numbers and just post a picture of the board on the site. I already did the video explaining what's going on there, so all I'm going to do when I update it, I'm just going to post the update on there. I'm not going to make another video of that. I'm not for wasting your time. I appreciate your time. I love that you're with me. Stick around. We got some great shows coming up. I hope you like today's show, and if you go in that water, always remember, you are much more afraid of those sharks than they are of you.